All right. Hi, welcome to the Progressive Caucus meeting on Tuesday, February 3rd. We don't have a big agenda planned for today. We're just going to catch each other up on what's happening in the House, what we're working on. So I'll go ahead and get started with introductions, and then I'll go last in terms of updating folks on what's going on in terms of my committee and the things that I'm working on right now. I'm Representative Kate Logan. I represent the Chittenden 16 district, which is most of the Old North End in downtown Burlington. And I serve on the House Committee on Environment, and I am a progressive minority leader.
Hi everyone, I'm Rep. Chloe Tomlinson. I represent Chittenden 21, which is Winooski, and sit on the House Transportation.
I'm Sheila Chittenden, 15 Burlington, the Old North End in the East District. And I'm on House Healthcare and the Ethics Panel.
Hello, Esme Cole, Windsor 6, Hartford, and I'm on Human Services.
And let's also make sure the folks joining us are introduced. Court Director, Garden House Clerk's Office. Thank you. Neil and Brett. Great, thank you for joining us. Chloe, would you be up to sharing an update first with us?
Sure. So in House Transportation, we have mostly been hearing from folks in the Agency of Transportation, general updates and background on their portions of the 2027 budget. There's been a lot of awareness around our transportation fund deficit and the actions taken this past year and in the upcoming budget to attempt to address that. There were already layoffs last year in the agency to address the shortfall. And then in this upcoming budget, there were further layoffs that happened to help close a $33 million gap. That gap was closed, and then on top of that, the governor decided to try to start transitioning purchase and use tax revenue that had been going to the Ed Fund back to the T Fund. So in this 2027 budget, he's pulled in $10 million back from the Ed Fund from purchase and use, and that is going towards a slate of projects, mostly paving projects. So a lot of the discussions around, or I guess we haven't really gotten into discussion, but kind of the underlying questions are, does the legislature agree with the cuts and changes that were made? Does the legislature agree with making that, starting that transition of purchase and use back to the T Fund from the Ed Fund? There's a lot of questions in there about that. For me, I'm particularly keen also to be tracking the public transit portion of the budget. And so that's something I'm paying a lot of attention to. We're also going to be hearing a bill this Friday for a local options tax for gas and diesel fuel. That one concept is that if we were to be able to get that to pass, that Chittenden County municipalities could put that on the ballot and tie it to transit funding to help support transit in our more densely populated areas. That's a pathway I'm really intrigued by. I also want to flag for everyone that House General and Housing is starting to take testimony on tenant-landlord issues and has asked for recommendations for people. And so if anyone has thoughts on folks who have who bring important perspectives to that conversation, who might otherwise be left out, I'm really keen to hear about that. And I need to send some suggestions still. I'm just realizing I haven't yet. So if you want to talk about that, please let me know. And I'm interested also in folks from like particular areas of the state. So we can talk more offline about that, but FYI. Yeah.
Go ahead. Do we think, I'm looking at their agenda and I see they're taking introductions of various bills. Are they, from what you want to know, are they considering rolling these things into one omnibus bill perhaps?
Yeah, so the plan from Chair Mahali is that they're hearing like kind of a review of all the bills related to tenant or landlord issues and then they will try to put together like an omnibus bill. Also, Chair Mahali introduced a bill. I can send you a one-pager summarizing it and highlight the bill number.
What is the number?
I don't remember,
Because
but
I'm looking at their committee agenda, that's why I asked.
it was in last week, he did like
Is it
this.
772? I can look it up, because I'm looking at the site.
No, I don't. Oh, that might be
It is his, yeah.
Yeah, so that's, my understanding is that sort of like, I don't know that he would frame it this way, but sort of like the baseline proposal of what came out of some conversations
That's what it looks like.
over the course of last year. So I think it's really important and he's expressed to me at least like a lot of interest in hearing from people proactively and early about what things they do or don't like in that. So if you see anything, encourage folks to reach out to him or let me
Thank you.
know. I think it's really important to be paying attention to that conversation.
It does look like they are discussing the no-cause eviction issue.
Yeah, so my understanding, well, I don't know if we want to get how in the weeds, but my understanding is that they put in no cause, they removed no cause, but it's not like the full just cause eviction policy that's been put forward for several years. And one part that's really interesting is that I think it kind of caps rent increases from one tenant to another tenant, but it doesn't do anything around increases between lease periods for a single tenant.
So does that mean they can
That's
completely, like,
problematic.
there's no limit on how much they can raise it when their lease renews?
For the same tenant,
Yeah,
yes, and also
yeah.
there's no obligation to offer another lease term. So it's basically within a single term, like a 12-month period, you can't no cause evict someone.
Right.
But you can not offer to renew their lease, or you could jack up the rent by 30%,
Yeah.
and that would be legal. So, it's really important to pay attention to this, and I think that also, there is gonna be that takeaway, like, oh, there's no cause in it, great, but the details really matter there. It also speeds up the eviction proceedings quite a bit. So, everyone should take a look at that, and
Yeah,
perhaps we
that's
need to have a conversation about that.
But it's a step in the right direction.
Right.
Well, it's good that it's happening,
Yeah.
like the
Well-
discussion is happening, but it could also be bad. It's good that we're making movement on it, and if we need to make sure that the right people are in the conversation and keep tabs on it such that it is with
Any idea how soon they're planning to pass it out of committee?
I don't know that, but pretty much all this week, they're taking testimony on it.
They don't have a vote listed this week, they have markup and discussion listed.
They have markup,
Yeah.
they're planning to start markup.
On Thursday
Yeah.
afternoon,
Okay.
yeah, so.
And then what about the bill for housing general, I just haven't looked at the schedule yet, that's related to limited equity manufactured housing cooperatives?
That is, it's up for a vote on Friday.
Okay, great, thank
They
you.
have more testimony and it's up for a vote Friday.
Okay, excellent.
Actually, I don't see much more testimony, I see a little
Yeah,
bit,
they've
but it's
already
up for a
taken the
vote.
testimony, yeah.
And then they invited me to come in on the LAOB bill on Friday,
Great.
which was
Oh,
nice.
that's exciting. Chloe, sounds like we need to put tenants' rights on our planning agenda, so we'll do that. But
Yeah.
also, have you gotten much reception from your press conference? Not really, okay, all right. So we need to continue to plan for that as well.
How can we be supportive?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm gonna think about that.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, great. All right, Brian, you're up. What's going on in committee? What else are you working on?
In committee, we are looking at the governor's healthcare bill. I'm just observing.
Drive numbers are delicious.
Anyway, the governor.
The Older Vermonters Caucus meets Wednesday. So,
That's always inclusive.
We're just having this conversation about destigmatizing the fruit. For real. Should be a caucus priority here.
I agree.
Thank you.
I'm with you.
I'm not judging it, I'm
I'll
just
sign on.
distracted by it.
Either way.
They should just call them dried plums. Yeah, anyway, sorry.
So, speaking of diet issues, let's pivot back to healthcare. And, we are looking at the governor's bill, which is Patty McCoy and Topper and Paul are
Yes.
sponsors, which talks about various health insurance reforms like age rating and reinsurance and a variety of other things. There's some things in there that aren't the worst things ever to do. And then there's some things that could be problematic. There's some, like the age rating thing, it's not the worst thing on earth, but lowering premiums of younger people by 5% is not, there's no evidence that that's gonna cause them to stay on the market when premiums skyrocket.
Yeah.
So it's like this thing that's punishing old people without even really looking at their health, that doesn't even truly incentivize it's a virtue signal. So but in like a reverse way, in reverse virtue signaling. So there's things in it that I think are not really what we should be debating and spending time on, if we're talking about health system reform. On that note, we are working on private equity in the healthcare system, and does seem to be an area where we might be able to make a difference. We learned some unfortunate facts, like 57% of methadone clinics are currently backed by private equity in Vermont, who put people on the maximum dose of methadone so that they can bill the most and make them come in every single day for urine screens that aren't necessary but allowed. And they charge more than other places for the urine screens, so they're like making them, and then they cut staffing to save money, and guess which programmatic component they cut in a methadone clinic to save money? Yes, the counseling component. So they cut out psychotherapy and leave just the prescribers. So basically, it appears as if private equity is coming into Vermont in the middle of a polysubstance pandemic, when the state's kind of pushing people into medication-assisted treatment while they're incarcerated. Then they come out and they go to methadone clinics that are privately owned, that are not giving people counseling to guide them towards getting off drugs, but rather increasing the dose of methadone to keep them permanently addicted to a pharmaceutical. So it just feels like a really extractive, exploitative practice. And I think it underscores why we really should be looking at alternative treatments like psychedelic assisted treatment, but which you don't have to do forever, and which pharmaceutical companies don't like because they can't control it. Although I'm sure we'll see a big rush of private equity to buy up like indigenous land to where these medicines are grown.
Who's recruiting the private equity firms into Vermont to operate these clinics?
I don't know if anyone's recruiting them. It's kind of like they hunt. Like they've decided in the last 30 years that healthcare would be a sector to make money off of. And so in the 80s, a lot of these companies bought up manufacturing in the United States, reduced the staffing, then sold off the property, then sold off the asset. So they extract all this money, and then they've kind of exhausted that market. So they moved into the healthcare sector, and in some states they're buying up massive pieces of the healthcare sector. In some cases, they are able to salvage things. Like there are situations where things are collapsing and private equity comes in and it's a good arrangement and they're able to like help. And there's people in Vermont who have private equity backing who are really defensive with this bill and concerned about it because they feel like their private equity backers are their partners and their helpers. But then we hear these concerning things like every nursing home in Vermont has private equity connections now. So if we pass the bill, we have to think about that. Or we might have to carve it out for nursing homes. As a 49-bed nursing home fails in Vermont, that just happened. So, well, it was more than that, but there's 49 people who needed beds still. So like, it's a hot mess out there in the healthcare world right now in terms of the financing. In the meantime, our private practices and solo providers are struggling. Some of our hospitals aren't doing well. So we're looking at how to protect things, but we also are talking about ways to expand access to care. And I think there's gonna be a primary care bill coming over from the Senate that may be an opportunity for looking at how we invest in primary care. I do think we're gonna take up AI issues now that all the AI bills are in. It's not on our agenda this week, but it has been discussed. We do have Mary Holland coming in today, the prominent national natural medicine person who believes that masks and vaccines don't work. So that'll be interesting. Yeah, that's a little healthcare experience, like, a little overview of the healthcare committee. So who's next?
Although, I'll chime in, Brian, maybe on that piece. I was able to watch the testimony on private equity, and especially that really awesome Harvard, I don't know what he was, researcher.
Dr. Song.
Yes, exactly, fantastic. Highly recommend watching, if anything, from that whole private equity conversation, his testimony, and I
He's the
could
best.
find the link. But he did push back on the actual financial viability that folks are speaking to when they say they need private equity to save these struggling hospitals, because in the long term, it's not actually saving them at all. And in fact, even in the short term, I don't know either. And to your question, Kate, about how are they finding us, why are they targeting us? It's like, rural areas are their target, so we're just naturally a target because it's more profitable to work in rural healthcare. That's there.
Easier to pick up.
Yes,
The
and
assets and the communities.
the competition piece plays a factor here, so they have a command of the market itself. There's no
Nobody can
pressure.
compete with
Yes, because we're isolated. Rural, like, you don't have quite as many options in a rural setting, and so that's exactly why we're a target. But good
So
that we're talking
you're
about
working
it.
on it.
Yeah.
So you're working on it in healthcare. Are there ideas for limitations to put on private equity?
Well, there's a bill we're looking at that would limit the corporate practice of medicine. There's all these little policy levers we're looking at doing. But what we're hearing is that if we do some of these things, it's gonna impact things. We may have to carve out or other pieces of it. Like the biggest concern to me is,
Yeah.
but if we don't, then
Then we have to put money into it.
we would have to. I don't know what the answer would be. Well, what do you do if a company, out-of-state company, has a huge stake or a controlling interest in a nursing home, and then you ban that? They have to sell it. So who buys it? If no one buys it, but if the state doesn't have to put up the money to buy it, and then the state has to run it, that's a lot of money.
I think, to be honest, we're buying them out anyway all the time. We're having millions of dollars.
We're bailing them out
Bailing,
and letting
sorry,
them
not
just,
buying out, bailing out,
profit.
obviously. But obviously every year, this is a
Yeah.
multi-million-dollar question, so it's not like it's
But
out of the.
the bailing out is coming more at the federal level, and then we're stuck with the consequences.
No, it's in our budget every year, it's to bail them out. Yes, this is not a federal issue.
Rather
might
than
be an
bail them
option.
out every year, why not just buy them and run them?
Well, there might be an opportunity here. There might be an opportunity to use rural health transformation grant money. It's for you can use one-time money. I don't know if you can use it to purchase a facility though. I don't know if you can use it to purchase a building. So, but there might be ways to use it creatively as part of a package of refinancing the healthcare system, which if we're gonna do that, that's where I lean towards, let's just say we're gonna move forward with universal healthcare and stop playing games. Like, in the first level could be, we figure out a way to buy out private equity, get them out of Vermont, establish some public ownership of certain assets, establish a way to support to promote private local ownership of other assets. Like, we could do that. It's not, if we have the political will.
Yeah, there are the resources
Yeah.
in Vermont. We have the political will.
And then there's always taxation, there's another.
Yeah.
With existing money, we could possibly do a lot of this, and then there's also fair taxation. I did ask a question with age rating, I don't think you had a question, Chloe, but I'll finish this and then I wanna acknowledge that we were talking about age rating, it was asked of the Department of Financial Regulation if there's a spider crawling on the window above Courtney. I don't know if you're afraid of that.
No.
Okay, I can see it from here. I think it's a spider.
I think it's a little beetle.
Okay, anyway, it's as long as you're not afraid. I didn't know if it was going towards you. Now it's not.
Distracting.
Oh, there's another one. That's a fly though. Anyway, there's a lot of insects on the window today. I wonder if we're being bugged. All right, anyway, So, I asked during the discussion of age rating, or someone asked what other kinds of ratings exist, and EFR was not really answering it, and then they said that one that it might be beneficial in Vermont, but that they are not recommending is geographic rating, like having insurance rates depend on your geography. And then I said, is there anything prohibiting income-based rating? And he said, we're not recommending that. And I said, but is it allowed? And he said, yes. Which means we could charge rich people more for their health care. It's not illegal. We're allowed to do that. We're allowed to say, like, if you make above a certain amount, you pay more. But why are we not doing that? Why is it that a person who makes $50,000 pays the same as someone who makes $500,000? That person makes 10 times more. I'm not saying they have to pay 10 times more for their health care, but if they did, think about how that would promote affordability for everyone else, but they don't. So anyway, yeah, rant over. Well, I'm just making my point.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. That was well said.
I'm just curious if the rural health transformation grant, like what, is there discussion in committees about that? Like, what the role of the legislature might be in shaping that, or like
We
what
actually don't have a lot
opportunities
of say.
that was my previous
Yeah.
understanding, and I was wondering if there'd been any.
No, we
changes.
don't. No, they're basically like, here's what we're doing, what do you think? And so we can try, we can change the laws, but we can't control a lot of it. A lot of it is like in the hands of AHS and who's in charge of AHS. We do have control though, because there's an election coming up, just putting it out there. So,
If there are
the
people
people
who contest for the election.
Yeah.
Okay, what else are you working on? Outside of committee?
oh, well, all these bills just went in. Yeah, the LAOB bill, there's gonna be testimony on that, I don't know the details yet. All the opioid policy bills got introduced now, so I don't know what's gonna happen. It's time to start going around and trying to get heard by committees.
And then the apartheid-free communities resolution?
Yeah, there is a resolution. It looks like the Progressive Caucus is all supporting it, and then we have former progressives and Democrats signing on as well. And I'm gonna hand it in today because there's a press conference, I think Thursday, from Jewish Voices for Peace, and they really want a number by Thursday. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but I'll hand it in today and we'll see.
We could at least have the title of the resolution.
I can tell you the title.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
A resolution relating to the end of apartheid and supporting the people of Israel and Palestine in the resolution of conflict.
Great.
Oh yeah, it's right here, the end of apartheid and support, what I said is correct.
Okay. Great, well, thanks for taking the lead on that. What time is the press conference on Thursday? 12:30, great. Okay, Esme, what is going on in committee and what else are you working on?
Well,
I know what's going on.
yeah, exactly. Very comprehensive retry of H91, which we will not call it a retry because it is in theory going to be different, but
And there's a very different title.
it's a very different title, absolutely. So, I mean, I don't know exactly where to begin, besides we've been getting some actually really great testimony from all walks of life, and trying to find out where the gaps are in getting people connected with services. Seems like one thing we can all agree on, regardless of where we stand on the bill, is that the better integration of shelter and access to, connection, really, like somebody who can provide support in finding the next step as to what we need, even though we know the root causes are really affordable housing in many cases, sometimes other issues. But so markup actually begins this week on that bill, which is a big deal. I guess that's moving along quickly. Kate's going to testify today in her other professional role. And yeah. It's gonna all come down to very specific language recommendations, I think, because right now we're getting the story, but I think we need to really get into the nitty gritty, like what the language will cause and impacts on the ground, like, so.
It sounds like you have folks coming in today to make some proposals on that.
Yes, it sounds it. I don't know how specific their proposal will be, but time will tell, I guess. Hopefully they are pretty granular in terms of how we should be refining the bill, because right now it is not. I think this caucus can see that it is not where we want it to be. Yeah,
We got started talking about that though for a long time.
absolutely.
But I mean, I'm not sure if y'all are aware of this bill, but the title of the bill is an act relating to establishing temporary emergency housing and accountability program.
Yeah,
Whoa.
and it gets a little even worse. There's like a return to home section, like under like
And the
go
return
home,
program.
leave this,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
Oh, this is that bill.
yeah, like you
This is
have
the
to.
we'll give you bus fare
like-
leave bill.
Yes.
Yeah, like you need a Vermont
This is our big
ID in
bill.
order to be eligible to receive homeless services, or a couple other
Oh, shoot.
options for establishing residency in the state in order to get services.
Like,
And when
So,
Eric,
yeah.
yeah, when Eric speaks about the bill in committee, who's, the lead sponsor McGuire, I think his intent, the way he is saying it out loud is very different than the way the bill is coming through in the language, and I don't know,
Well, I think he thinks his intent is different.
I think so, maybe, yes, but, we'll see how these conversations go. I would like some progressive caucus input on something else I'm working on. Particularly maybe Tanya, your knowledge in history, I don't know if I can, but it having to do with fines and fees, reform, and judiciary. Whoever is interested, maybe another time we can spend time together talking about that and then work with.
Yeah.
Probably work with them quite a bit.
I've been more sentencing reform innocence project.
Oh, cool.
So,
That's
yeah, I'd be happy to, and yeah, so I've sort of taken the other tack, less the fines and fees and more
Okay,
the actual sentences, but I
maybe
think
we
they,
can bring them together.
yeah.
I'd
I'd love to have a
like
conversation.
talk more,
yeah.
whoever is interested.
That sounds like it would be a really interesting caucus meeting, actually. to talk
Oh.
about that. Is that gonna be, is judiciary gonna be working on that this year?
No, I'm just trying to apply pressure.
Oh, gotcha.
I mean, yeah, I think their argument is that we already have some aspects of the language are in line with ability to pay, but really there's so many missing gaps, and right now we have $44 million in unclaimed fines and fees.
Well, the tricky thing with the language is the ability to pay language. It mandates that you examine the ability to pay, but you don't actually have to use that in assessing the fine or fee. So you have to know it, but then you can pay it and disregard it.
Yes, there's one example, I think, of
Cash
many
bill's the same.
of the many gaps that could be addressed. There's plenty of opportunity, but I think it's a matter of like really communicating the needs, where I think certain members of judiciary like think, okay, well, we dealt with that before,
Right.
like we already did that, but I think there still are plenty of pressing needs. We just need to make sure the conversation comes around there and we articulate it clearly too, where the gaps are.
Yeah, I look forward to talking more about that.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts, because anytime there's income sensitivity, like packed into a policy, then you're talking about needing a large amount of administrative staff
For verification,
to do the income verification.
Yeah.
Which, like, I don't know, like,
Yeah.
like my program and my professional life serves, about 100 youth annually. Only about 50 of them participate in programs with any income sensitivity.
Yeah,
And I have to have one whole full-time staff person
it's a lot.
Probably waste a lot
for
of
50
Totally.
people
income.
Absolutely.
annually. So that,
Although if there are arguments that we're already doing that, like if that's what judiciary is telling me, like, oh, we already do like the income thing, and I know Tanya said, well, it's not enforceable, like then maybe there is some infrastructure there already.
yeah.
But I agree,
We need to
regardless,
learn
it's too
more.
bad that we're spending
Yeah.
on that. And same with anything in economic services, obviously, that's a huge part of our budget. And now the feds are requiring a different form of income verification that is more expensive every year too,
Right.
so,
Typical Republican policy, frankly.
which is very costly.
Yeah. It is.
Yes, imagine if we did that for universities from you. All the admin, we have to save on it. Anyway,
When your school cafeteria staff are doing income sensitive. I mean, they made it easy though, I will say, like my kids got free lunch when and they were in elementary school, and all I had to do was bring my letter that showed that I got SNAP benefits. So that's one easy
Yeah.
way to do that.
There's a huge missing middle, obviously, it's the folks who barely.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're doing like progressive income sensitivity in any way, then it's really, really hard to administer. And it's also, yeah. Anyway, that's a conversation perhaps for another
Sure,
day.
that would be really helpful to have
Yeah,
support there
that'd
and
be great.
collab.
Is there anything else you're working on right now?
There are several things, I just don't wanna take up time, you guys are the leaders here.
Just run through.
I mean, down the pipe, National Infrastructure Bank resolution urging our Congress people to, sign on to a bill that is out there. Representative Fallon has not signed on. When she was here in the building, I kind of handed her staff person a secret note saying, please sign on. But we have a resolution, that I haven't received the draft of, but as soon as I do, I really want it to be bipartisan, I really want it to be expansive, but articulating why this model is different and could be a wonderful source of revenue without losing all that money on interest from borrowing back our own taxpayers' dollars. We have a lot of money for that, for huge projects that we cannot afford to bond, but that are critical to increase GDP, I guess. Among quality of life, obviously these are big, our infrastructure is crumbling. But another issue that I've been spending a lot of time on is trying to keep my nose in the Green Bank infrastructure bill in the Senate with Senator Ann Watson. She is, we're blessed to have a chair who is taking testimony on an issue like this. To be honest, I know this is on the record, but I'm not hugely in support of a green bank, even though I love it because it's a set aside amount of capital for really important projects that stays dedicated to that purpose. I don't love that it's just like another appropriation that again, we're just gonna have to instead of a systemic way to raise revenue, by just instead of having our money in M&T and having to waste time in there, we could be leveraging our own taxpayer dollars to these ends. And instead it just feels like more of the same. Even though it's a good-hearted initiative and important to dedicate infrastructure to put money there, I'm just so pro restructuring our whole way we finance, which is why I'm so interested in the National Infrastructure Bank, if that is that. Here's more stuff that I'm working on. Terracotta,
Oh, yeah.
that's moving
At
on.
7:39.
Yeah, on the house side.
And then the Venezuela resolution.
But another one that maybe the Progressive Caucus would be interested in is we have a bill, I sponsored a bill in Human Services, which is a consolidation of the area agencies on aging. We have 5 right now, giant executive salaries, and 5 different offices, very admin distanced from the work on the ground that needs to be done with our seniors, in senior centers. That's where the access to critical services is happening. But because there is a track record of not being directly connected with the folks on the ground, we don't need 5 and we don't have the money to pay for 5. And I think we can be far more efficient with less admin and more people power.
Are those areas of, overlap with the CAP districts?
You mean the 5 that exist today? Good question. I don't remember how they're broken down.
Because they're not housed in the CAPs.
If they are, then they sure don't seem to be talking very well because,
That seems like a natural
yeah.
next step, maybe.
What are executive directors even doing?
Yeah, well, I could say plenty about that,
I'm just curious, we have a lot of executive positions in the state,
but.
and what I see them doing is speaking on behalf of their workers.
They're mostly managers.
What does that mean though?
Oh,
People are coming in and getting clinical supervision from them, are they,
No,
what is
there's
managers,
a
why do we
lot
need
of-
so many managers?
There's a lot of administrative work that has to get done.
Why do we make them do that?
Because somebody has to do it.
I guess there might be ways we can run our systems that are less hierarchical, and imagine if staff were running them in their local teams instead of having these big hierarchies. I don't know, it just seems like we really need to rethink the way we do things.
I do think people tend to undervalue administrative work. It has to happen. It's sort of like changing a diaper. It has to happen. And we want to make people, we want to not pay people to do stuff like that, but it has to get done.
Yes, and we, like, there's a clear gap, and like, we're expecting these people to like get access, like somehow connect with an individual who knows more than them. Like, and in theory, these people should know because they're the like middle person in between all the other resources, like, let's help you apply for
You're right.
research, let's help you get into long-term care, like, but nobody's talking to them, they're not being on the ground with these people, and so
I
like,
agree. Well, they're not
Yeah.
incentivized.
they're not incentivized to do so, and so we would need to seriously think about restructuring that, even though it's kind of, it already is in statute, but we feel like there's.
I mean, I understand diapers need to be changed, but why does the mom have to do it? The dad can learn how, the brothers and sisters can
Well, the
learn how,
dad-
the neighbors can learn,
I
everyone
mean,
can
the
be changing
executive
diapers.
director is the dad, like, so to speak, of the organization and is changing the diaper. So it's like a bigger conversation, obviously, about, because like I do human services administration. I spend 100% of my time making sure that, 15 people have full-time paying jobs with benefits, and I make sure that 100 youth have
Absolutely.
funding to be housed every
Absolutely.
year. And nobody, like, case managers don't have time to do that.
No, we don't, that is true.
So somebody's gotta do that
Yeah.
side of the work. I agree that the hierarchical and
Yeah.
the lack of connection to like the work on the ground is probably the problem, and that it's disincentivized. Because I have so much work to do that I don't have time to have conversations.
Absolutely.
And could you share some of that work? Like, is there a way you could be doing some direct service and mostly administration, and they could be doing mostly direct service and some administration, or does it have to be
You
so?
kind of already do it that way. But it's like, there's so much administrative work to do. And if you have to switch like your task mentality and go from doing one kind of work to another kind of work, there's like a
Not
waste
everyone's
of
suited to
time.
that. I get it,
like,
yeah.
So it's really challenging how to administer it. But I do think, like, for example, it's very different. My salary, for example, is lower than the salaries of the program directors for direct service programs in my agency. So there's a devaluation of administration that's continually happening. So like my salary's not going up with inflation. There's no way I can do anything about it because there is this idea that administration isn't as valuable as direct service. And so there's less capacity to do administration, but we're being asked to do more because we keep getting more and more requirements placed on us that we need to track and report on.
This is the problem though.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to be, I'm as a direct service person, I do often feel like a resentment towards the people behind the closed doors deciding what we do. And so it's helpful to hear your perspective that like, your intention is good and you're being overburdened with all these stupid things that maybe don't need to be done so that we can do the direct service. We've created these massive systems that are expensive to manage and run with excessive bureaucracy. It's like not the smartest use of money.
And I'll be honest, I like blaming conservative Democrats and Republicans for all that. I mean, like, it's all because of like, we don't think people deserve the services that we provide, that we put these like enormous bureaucracies into place in order to like, to gatekeep resources, basically.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. And, being accountable to the public, but then at the same time, like, sending our money to a nonprofit organization that isn't democratically, like, doesn't get democratic oversight. Anyway, the whole system is, it's functioning exactly as intended. I don't want to call it broken. It's intentionally dysfunctional.
Yeah, and I guess it emerges from this like mentality of hierarchy and superiority, where it's like there's people at the top ruling over people who are ruling over people, and so you're a cog in a machine. I'm not saying you're like the one ruling over people, but ultimately there's these EDs who are part of like an ED class who then come here and like rub elbows with like the people in power here who are like controlling the purse strings.
At the big agencies, I will say that's also another thing, is that the smaller agencies, the EDs aren't here, rubbing elbows and making all the
Right.
decisions. It's like, you'll look at the human services schedule, it's Paul Dragon, you know, like the big agencies. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's also a big
I was
conversation.
just, we haven't heard.
Yeah, we haven't heard from
Right, so I
Tanya
just
or
wanna-
I did see
myself
the governor's press release though, which wasn't promising,
on,
Yeah, the
gloating
appointment.
about his judges.
oh, right. Yeah, so let's hear from Tanya. What's going on, in your committees mostly? Today is the day, right, for the judges?
It's already happened.
It happened.
That's what I wanted to hear, like what happened.
Christina Nolan was approved 23-7, Michael Drescher tied 15-15, and the Lieutenant Governor broke the tie to move him forward.
Which one?
Wow.
Sapon Guards and Ralph Humphrey.
Oh.
Every time.
Oh, wow. Wow,
Well,
Pretty,
it's upsetting
yeah.
considering his ICE connections. Or wasn't he like
Who?
Drescher?
Oh, yeah.
sure. I mean, I can certainly speak to the committee process, and I certainly would, you know, I know the votes have already happened, but I think the hearings are quite informative. I can certainly, as someone who ultimately changed my mind and did vote for Christina Nolan, but did not vote to support Michael Drescher. I think, like I said, that the committee hearings are quite informative. Yes, Michael Drescher was the U.S. attorney that was defending the government in opposition to the habeas corpus petitions from both Moses Madawi and from Asa Oster. He really made the argument that he was just doing his job. Multiple judges and attorneys and other people sort of weighed in that there were other avenues open that he chose not to take. That was concerning, and to me, of course, and I can certainly see arguments on all many sides of that as to, you know, why I ultimately don't agree with the decision he made, but why he might have made that decision. What actually came to light that was far more concerning to me was his decision in September of 2025 to attend a press conference in Florida with Pam Bondi. A press conference that he left his mother's home in California to go to, not really on the way home. And he was highlighting a case here in Vermont of human trafficking. And I asked him if he had considered the fact that this administration has used sensational cases like that to paint a broad scale picture of what all immigrants are like. And his response was that it never crossed his mind that he would be used in that way. To me, really lacking the insight to understand. I mean, after years, this is the first Trump administration did that. And so for him to make the decision to go down and praise Pam Bondi's work.
Yeah, that would be a deciding factor for me.
And for me, like, there is no ethical obligation to go to press conferences. You know, what I heard from him is it wasn't worth getting fired over. And I'm not sure what is, if
Right.
going and praising the dehumanization of whole groups of people isn't. So that to me was actually far more damning than making a different legal assessment than I might have.
Yeah.
And frankly, one of the distinct differences I saw between Christina Nolan and Michael Drescher is Christina Nolan spoke about all of the people she had either prosecuted or defended. She has spent the last 5 years as a defense attorney. As human beings, clearly centering her impact on them and her care for them. And it wasn't, you know, some people have sort of insinuated that, like, first she showed up and she was interviewing, she was playing a role, but it really wasn't just the answers to the questions, it's the way she talked about people. Whereas Mr. Drescher came in and again and again and again just sort of said, like, I understand that it's a difficult situation Mr. Madawi finds himself in. It's like they weren't human beings and he couldn't see his impact. And that really, and so I'm really concerned. But the vote has happened. It's pretty unprecedented how it came out of committee on a vote of no recommendation, not yes or no.
The governor's saying that the judicial nominating board deemed them qualified to serve, and he said, I don't know if you saw his press release, so what he's characterizing is, he's saying that we are, as elected officials, we are expected to stand up for what's right regardless of the pressure, because that's what Vermont is expected to do. Voting should be based on the character, integrity, and capabilities of the nominees, and the integrity and independence of our judicial branch rather than the chaotic times we happen to be living in. I want to commend each senator who had the courage to put Vermonters before politics today. And I believe the newly appointed Supreme Court justices will act the same. So he's like framing it that you guys who voted against him were like, this is that same
Well, and
practice.
we'll give Governor Scott
But the
rhetoric.
interesting thing too,
Yeah.
because and just to blow that rhetoric out of the water is.
Please.
I am told, well, I think we all know that Christina Nolan ran as a Republican for US Senate in 2020.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
And I am told by many people who know Michael Drescher quite well that he's a Democrat.
Oh, interesting.
So
I mean,
I voted, and I think,
I know you're
I think the people who voted
Yeah,
today
right.
voted with their conscience and their integrity, and
That's a good
certainly
point,
I
yeah.
will
I agree.
say that sitting in committee, you know, we also heard from a retired Supreme Court justice who begged us to consider the courage of the importance of courage in the
Who
Supreme
was
Court.
that?
Chief Justice Amestoy.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
He went down a whole list of things that we should consider, including the courage of the candidate, and I'm sorry, I saw courage in one of the
Yeah.
nominees.
And
And that's
honesty,
the one
it
I
sounded
stood
like,
for.
and honesty, which
Yeah.
in the end, that's what we
And
need.
self-awareness.
And
Yeah.
humility, and
Yeah.
a willingness to sit there on the record in a job interview and say, I was wrong, I've changed my view, and that was 10 years ago, here are the things
Yeah.
I've done. Like, I saw humanity and humility and a clear understanding and reflectiveness of the gravity of the role that she was being asked to fill. I did not see that any
How long are they in there for?
life.
The rest of it.
But then they retire at some point.
Unless they're impeached.
I mean, technically, Supreme Court justices do come up through judicial retention. I think that would be in 2032.
Okay, well, that's not too
But
bad.
the judicial retention process is such that judges are almost never not retained.
Yeah. Yeah, that, I've never
Well,
seen one not retained.
I hope
In
he
10
doesn't
years.
have to do too much damage to get removed.
Or maybe he'll learn from this.
Yeah, might.
I don't know.
That's hopeful.
I don't know, I mean, we gave him multiple opportunities to learn from the process, you know, when asked in, you know, some of these instances, would you have done anything differently? His answer was consistently no.
Okay, thank you. I have to make a call for
Yeah, I
committee.
know, we got a break, so just one more thing though, Tanya's tax bill is going to get a more thorough introduction in Senate Finance on Thursday.
What? Would have been
Yeah.
cool for them to tell me that.
Yeah, just FYI,
Thanks.
I gathered that you didn't know based on the fact that you didn't say anything about it, because it's pretty important.
Yeah.
And then my companion bill, 794, may get initially introduced to Ways and Means on Friday, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about on that bill when we get a chance to have a planning meeting.
Yeah, not tax related, not, I mean, we still have some of the immigration stuff moving through judiciary, but S-227, which is the, school immigration policy bill, is getting an introduction in Senate Education today at 2:30.
Okay, good luck.
All right, have a great day.